there. We have coming up this week a crazy amount of Aries energy. So let's take a look. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different today. I have something really fun to share with you to help all of us work with this Aries energy. I'm Marina here with your Astro vibe for Sunday, April 12th. And here is what we are in the midst of. So Aries, remember, Aries is the energy of action, of new beginnings. It is ruled by Mars. Mars traditionally is the god of war, but it's not as simple as simply being a fighter, right? In the old traditions, the god of war was the god also of strategy, of objectives, and clear thinking. So we want to think about Mars in this more deep and complex way to more effectively work with this week's Aries energy. So let's take a look first at why this is so important right now. First of all, we had a Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th at 0 degrees Aries after last year both planets went into Aries and then retrograded back. So this Aries energy already is underpinning a lot of what is unfolding in our collective experience and in the energies we're feeling inside of ourselves. So that energy of initiative, of beginning things, of finding our courage, of taking action, of not being patient anymore, right? Not waiting anymore for someone to fix the problem, but taking things into our own hands, deciding what we're going to do about it. And that Aries energy is decisive. So first of all, we had that Saturn Neptune conjunction on February 20th. And we had, so both planets, Saturn and Neptune, have gone into Aries. They move very slowly. So we're going to have this energy as a background with us for some time, a couple of years in the case of Saturn, and until the late 2030s in the case of Neptune. So then on April 9th, Mars, the ruler of Aries, went into Aries. So Mars is now in its own sign, activating that Aries energy, enhancing its ability to be pure, right? Its essence of Aries energy, unbridled, unmitigated, nothing is stopping that Aries energy from wanting to move forward. It doesn't mean we necessarily will get everything we want, but it's that drive inside of us, that will, that energy to make things happen. And then today is actually April 12th. So the Mars is joining Neptune tonight. And so late in the day, Pacific time, early morning, Monday, Eastern time, Mars will join Neptune in a conjunction. That is the first activation of this stellium, and there's going to be a lot more this week. So on April 14th, that's Tuesday, Mercury enters Aries. So now we have the planet of communication joining the planet of action in the sign of initiative, drive, courage, passion in action. Planet of communication, Mercury. Okay, and then we have on April 15th, Wednesday, the moon enters Aries. And we then have all day on Wednesday, the moon ticking by all four of these planets. So the moon hits Mercury, Neptune, Mars, Saturn, all together there in early Aries. 5 planets in the first 10 degrees of Aries all day, essentially on Wednesday, April 15th. And so for first the moon, and the moon, when it moves by these planets, it will trigger things. So the moon moving through and triggering the planets through conjunctions, through squares, through oppositions is a brief but intensifying energy. So it intensifies these already like potent, very potent Aries, all four planets in early Aries. This is what we call a stellium. So all four, and then five with moon joining, and then all in Aries. And then the sun is, of course, also in Aries, but the sun is in later Aries. So 2 days later, after the moon hits all of those points in on Wednesday, the new moon in Aries at 4:51 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, April 17th. So basically from 7:03 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, April 15th until 8:57 a.m. on April 17th, just after that exact new moon in Aries, for basically Wednesday morning through Friday morning, we have 6 planets in Aries with all of these conjunctions happening. On April 16th, Mercury conjunct Neptune. So Mercury hits Neptune on the 16th. On April 19th, now the moon has left Aries, but these conjunctions continue, these activations continue with the personal planets, Mercury and Mars, moving through Aries past these outer planets, Neptune and Saturn. So on April 19th, we have Mars conjunct Saturn. And on April 20th, we have Mercury conjunct Saturn and then Mars. So you can see that Mercury, Saturn, and Mars all really tightly together there for at least a couple of days. So lots of Aries energy. Really important. And I shared last week about how to handle the rash, accident prone, hasty energy of Aries. And some of the things that I said had to do with taking a breath, slowing down. This is energy that can have things flaring up so fast that you don't know what happened. And so it can definitely be ripe for accidents, injuries, and incidents to happen. So we want to slow things down where we can, take a step back, ask ourselves what we need, right? So do that consciously. And if you are doing that consciously, you are much more likely to be able to, have a close call as opposed to the worst case scenario. So thinking about the conflict energy of Aries, but also the creative energy of Aries and Mars. And this Mars Aries energy says, this is not the time to hold back, but think about what it is you are not holding back. Be really clear, be careful about what you are feeling and how it speaks to you, because if we are going unconscious, what's coming out, what's flaring up, what's flying out of our mouth, what is going to come from that place of the unconscious, old habits and patterns that are not necessarily in our best interest, could create more conflict instead of de-escalating, right? So we want to be really aware of who we are and stay grounded. Take that extra breath in the morning, especially on the 15th through the 20th, about in there. Really, get yourself grounded. Make sure that you at least have time to take care of yourself and slow things down where possible. On the other hand, when things move quickly, sometimes it's easier to speak up, to share your truth because you're not holding your own self back, right? So the courage and the ability to act and to move things forward that really might need some movement, places where things have been stuck, places where you've been holding back when you really need to speak up or share your truth. So those actions, those words, the things that you need to do, and putting it into action and motion as a way of creating. So that creative energy, really, we can capitalize on this energy of new beginnings by bringing what we have been imagining or feeling into, connecting with our hearts, being clear about what we want to create. Because I think we're going to find a lot more opportunity coming up here, some more doors opening to say, yeah, but what do you want to create? And so it's worth, and that's the work we have been doing, right? And now we're in the doing part, and not in the ruminating part. So be ready for action, but also be clear about who you are and what matters most. Remember, in one of these videos, I said, write it down or put it somewhere where you can remind yourself, because things might start moving really fast. And you need to have that reminder to say, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, or here's what I care about. And when I go through my day today, I don't know what might show up, but here is my guiding principle. So things like that, getting grounded in your own guiding principles. So what I want to share with you today is very interesting. This actually goes back to 2011. I did a workshop on Mars and Mars energy. And in my prep for that workshop, I found this Homeric hymn. It's a poem from way, way back, between 700 and 500 BC. These were written, they were probably originally some sort of oral tradition and poetry that was recited. Anyway, this is from the Homeric hymns, and it is a translation, obviously, because the original was in Greek, and it speaks to Mars energy. And what I did back in 2011 is I read this Homeric hymn, which I think is really interesting in how it speaks to Mars energy. Of course, it speaks about Mars, Aries, the god, but we can think about how this in modern times shows up in our own lives and our own psyches. And so I rewrote the Homeric poem from a modern perspective, and maybe this will help you move through this Aries energy. So bear with me here. I'm going to read first the Homeric Hymn 8 to Aries, translated by Evelyn White, written between the 7th and 4th centuries BC. Okay, so here we go. And I may not, just disclaimer here, I don't know if I'm pronouncing all the words right. It is in English, but it's not my, all the words are not my typical language I use. So bear with me here. Okay, here's the Homeric hymn. You can find this online. Homeric hymn 8 to Aries. Aries, exceeding in strength, chariot rider, golden helmed, doughty in heart, shield bearer, savior of cities, harnessed in bronze, strong of arm, unwearying, mighty with the spear, O defense of Olympus, father of warlike victory, ally of Themis, stern governor of the rebellious, leader of righteous men, sceptered king of manliness, who whirl your fiery sphere among the planets in their sevenfold courses through the ether, wherein your blazing steeds ever bear you above the third firmament of heaven. Hear me, helper of men, giver of dauntless youth, shed down a kindly ray from above upon my life, and strength of war, that I may be able to drive away bitter cowardice from my head and crush down the deceitful impulses of my soul. Restrain also the keen fury of my heart, which provokes me to tread the ways of blood-curdling strife. Rather, O Blessed One, give you me boldness to abide within the harmless laws of peace, avoiding strife and hatred and the violent fiends of death. Okay. So you can obviously, replay that as you wish. But here is my version, rewritten, a modern prayer to Mars. So a prayer to Mars, prayer for strength. Okay, so this is essentially my rewritten version. Mars, with your strength and might, with your untiring effort, with your steadfast courage and willingness to defend and protect my truth against all of its enemies within and without, with your skillful wielding of the spear and ability to cut out what does not serve me as the driver of the chariot of my soul in this our incarnation, I call upon you now. Send me your unwavering strength and courage, that I may release completely and for all time compulsive actions which do not serve my greatest good. Help me to subdue and remove from my being any inclinations to rage or revenge that do not serve my objectives or the greatest good for all beings. Give me the courage and the audacity to do my part, to consciously and intentionally create a peaceful, harmonious, and sustainable world for myself and my fellow beings for uncountable generations into the future. I am willing to own my power with patience, compassion, and love in every moment. So, what do you think? Let me know. I want to hear what you think, and I'm just putting that out there as my version. Hopefully it's helpful. Maybe it's helpful. I think at least the Homeric Hymn 8 gives us some things to think about, right? Because there's winning and losing. There's that side of Mars and Aries energy. There is the drive for power, the drive to defeat your enemy, the drive for revenge, right? All the ways that we have that human impulse to defend, to protect, to stop. But then there's also not just winning and losing, but right and wrong, good and bad. And I think we can re-anchor ourselves in fighting for what is right, fighting for truth, for facts, for justice, for not justice for revenge, but justice for healing, justice that helps bring things back into order, justice that restores our ability to function, and justice that can be sustainable, something that can bring us back to our human, what's good about being human, right? And what's good about being humans where we are with the identities we have, honoring and recognizing our own truths. So I think that as we move through this week, we'll see what happens. I'm not a predictive astrologer, so that's not my jam. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen, but how we can think about these energies, how we can work with them, and again, I think how we can bring it back to ourselves and what matters most, what we care about, and how our actions can be in alignment with what we want to see, with what we want to create, with who we can be. when we step into the best version of ourselves. So that's it for today. I'm sure there are things I'm leaving out, but that is what I have to share with you. And of course, I want to invite you also to join me for a chart interpretation workshop this week on Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, for artists, healers, intuitives, people who care about the future, people who are interested in doing their part, those of us who want to make a positive difference. And I will show you how to do that in your chart. Obviously, it's not going to be a comprehensive chart reading. It's going to be a workshop where you're going to learn how to find things in your chart, what they mean, how it comes to life when you can look at it from an evolutionary perspective. And so we'll definitely talk about Mars, where Mars is in your chart, and so much more. All right, so you can find the link to sign up for that workshop in the description for this video. Go to transformationalastrology.com. You can learn more about the workshop and find more, just lots of content for me also there. So thank you for joining me and for hitting the subscribe button. If you are enjoying these videos, thank you for your support, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.